Welcome, welcome, welcome. Fedora Friday number four. Fedora Friday number four. Wow. Wow. Man, what an exciting episode we have today. Um, by all admissions, well, first of all, it's been an exciting week, right? Let's be honest. We had Tuesday, we had Steve Heck talking about the real velour process of Germany, Austria, and Czechoslovakia. And then on Wednesday, we had the very next day, we had an installment of Hat Chat, right? We had Hat Chat number 27, and we had our good friend Robert Galt of Wolfbray Custom Hatters join us, and we had a great conversation. If you haven't caught any of those, I highly, highly recommend it. I don't know. There was just something where, and again, it wasn't really planned. I just had a very organic conversation with Robert, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. I just found out just how similar we were. Obviously, there's an age gap, and there's kind of a country gap. There's a background gap, but even then, we found so much common ground in terms of how we approach this kind of hat hobby, right? He happens to be a hatter. I'm not. But we really did, I think, gel really well. So I'm hoping Robert comes back and joins us. It seemed like he had a good time. Hopefully you guys had a good time. I know I did. It just was, again, a whole lot of fun, and that's really what it's all about, right? And I always say this, if you watch anything, any of my streams in the past, if you're not having fun, then you're doing this wrong, right? And it's not just hats, right? If you're not having fun in life, then you're doing life wrong. Because again, life's too short, right? Life's too short not to have fun. So if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. But the nice thing is, as long as you're still alive, you can change things up, right? It's never too late. Never too late to have fun. You just got to demand it of yourself, right? You got to say, I demand fun. Darn it. It's like I'm either if I'm gonna have fun or else, else the heads are gonna roll, right? Maybe you don't need to be that dramatic, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to be a little dramatic sometimes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. How many guests we'll have on here today. Paul probably is still traveling. So we'll see if Paul jumps on here. He's always welcome. He doesn't have to stay. You guys in my inner circle are always welcome. Again, you don't have to stay, but this movie that we're covering today, Lawless, man, what a movie! Shout out to Josh for recommending this movie because honestly, like I had not seen it. I heard the name. I never thought to go see it. I didn't know it was a hat movie. I didn't know how star-studded the cast was until I looked it up. I'm like, okay, Tom Hardy, Shia LaBeouf, Gary Oldman. I'm like, that's got like Guy Pearce, right? We know about Guy Pearce from LA Confidential, right? Great actor, like really killed it in this role, right? So whatever you think about Ed Exley, Guy Pearce, and again, we won't talk about much about Guy Pearce only because, well, he was hatless throughout the movie. But what a character, right? We talked about like an iconic villains like obviously Bane from Batman, right? Speaking of in terms of the connection, but Bill the Butcher, we talked about Bill the Butcher. I feel like Charlie Rake's Guy Pearce's villain character in this movie, Lawless, probably is up there with those guys, right? Really like a super villain, right? If they gave Charlie Rakes any kind of superpowers, it might have not created any kind of extra nuance to the character. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, we got guests. Come on, my friend.
How you doing?
And Ian. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well,
Ian.
cool.
And hatless though. You're gonna have to explain yourselves. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's better.
We've just been walking around central London, and we've got a few hatters that would be quite happy for us to make introductions.
Yeah.
We're going to gate crash Lock and Co's winter launch of their hats. They've actually said that they're going to send us an invite, and that would be nice if we can get a live recording with yourself or something. And they said they would like to discuss coming on your show. So,
oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
Well, there's Stetson also. They're quite interested, so I think we can do something with them. But you know what? We've had a nice afternoon. We're just having a coffee. We're going to go around to one more hat shop, and then we're going to get a bite to eat or something. But you know, when you're ready, when you're over in the UK, we'll do it all again. It's a really nice, pleasant walk as a company, and you know, the shop people have been very welcoming. So yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Ian, you look great. That hat is awesome. Man, what a crown. Look at that crown on Ian. That is a PJ Murphy special for Ian. Exactly. Shout out to PJ Murphy and Son. We got Josh that just joined us. Josh, are you able to see our two fine gentlemen here? These are our core here. They're having a great time together. They're you can hear it in Paul's voice of how great of a time he's having. You know what I mean? And then I see Ian sipping on something. I don't know what that is, but it looks like it might be fun. Ian, you want to share what you're drinking?
What you're drinking, yeah.
It's only a cappuccino.
Oh,
nothing alcoholic.
Okay, no worries. Like I said, you know, you haven't reached that phase of your journey, but maybe with that fish and chips.
Yeah, maybe. There's a fish and chip shop around here, so we'll see. But But anyway, we just wanted to pop in and say hello because we're in a coffee shop, so it's difficult for us to stay on the channel.
No worries.
But, we'll give you an update next week, and it's all gone probably slightly better than we thought. So really pleased that Ian and I have made the effort.
Thank you so much, guys. Guys, have a great time. Have one in my honor, and then I'll see you when I see you next.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. Ciao, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Wow, guys. That was, yes, agreed, Josh. Wasn't that a great looking hat? You know, and again, it really touches me that just the fact that Ian and Paul did not know each other prior to this channel. Like, this is really what I wanted to have here in a very organic way, not obligated. Obviously, nobody's obligated to hang out with each other, but you now have, I feel like a great bond there between, you know, a hat enthusiast and his hatter. They're going out, enjoying what they love the most together. Right? It's about commiserating and being part of, like, you know, I always talk about finding your tribe, and I don't mean to be like corny about that, you know, but I feel like it is part of like a fundamental human experience to go and seek out those that are very similar to yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with diversity, right? Diversity is great, but you know, sometimes we kind of crave that validation from our fellow hatters. That's why we sometimes post our photos, right? You find myself on Facebook and on the Fedora Lounge sharing my photos. Josh is sharing his photos of his hat making process. We're going out there. We're putting ourselves out there. And you know what? You know, it's no small feat. I know it sounds like it's so simple to do. I mean, in actuality, posting is very simple. But the idea of sharing a piece of yourself with strangers, right? There's something a little bit courageous about it. I'm not trying to make myself into a hero or Josh into heroes or everybody else that does this. But we know that for every person that goes out there and shares their hats, shares whatever they like of themselves, right? You know, there's so many more people that, right? They're the ones that are consuming the content, right? They wouldn't dare go and post, you know, and sometimes you'll get like smart Alex out there, right? A lot of the what we call trolls, right? And they will go and make some snide comment. And then you're looking at it and you're like, okay, but you know, let me see your photos, right? Let me see what you got to offer. You know, and then you find out you get crickets, right? You know, and that's really easy. I don't bother engaging with trolls very often unless they happen to be trolling somebody I really care about, you know. You know, that's when I go into full protector mode and I go into my pseudo dad mode, right? It's kind of like that whole guy protectionism mechanism, and that's how I get myself into trouble. That's when I start saying and doing things that, well, otherwise I wouldn't. If it was just myself, I'd probably have a whole lot more restraint, only because I have a little bit thicker skin when it comes to myself, right? I know I'm not perfect. I know I make mistakes. You could probably, oh man, you could probably fill a book with all the mistakes I've made in my lifetime. Several books. Probably several encyclopedias, to be honest. But it doesn't mean that has to make me feel bad about myself, right? I'm here to learn, right? I'm here to learn from you guys, right? That's why I got hatters here. I got folks that have been doing hatting. We had Robert there saying that he's been wearing hats for many, 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 many years, right? He said he went and he got his first outfit at 12. He was somebody that right early on knew like the trajectory of the type of person that he was going to become. And, obviously he's still evolving, right? We never stop evolving our style, what we like, knowing ourselves, right? Right. It's one of those that Shakespearean quote, "To thine own self be true." Right. It's about authenticity and about presenting yourself in the most authentic way possible. And that's what I love about this hat hobby. It really is, another means of self-expression. Right. You got myself here with this very like loud shirt, and I got this is my own personal Lawless hat. I recently picked up this hat. This is a 1930s Kavanaugh, wow, what a great, I think this is my tribute to my own personal Forrest, my own personal Forrest Bondurant hat. Right, it has kind of like that similar color, and you guys will see it's like it really pops, that hat. And you know what, let me let me just bring out the photos, right? I don't want to extend this. This is Josh, I believe you had recommended this Lawless movie. Thank you so much. This is definitely a hat movie. This is definitely one of those movies that you can't really speak as much about it, in as much as you just got to see the photos. So let me go and bring out the photos, Let me show you what you really want here. And just to kind of set the tone, this is a 1930s Prohibition era kind of a story here, right? It's based on a true story of the Bondurants. The Bondurants really did exist, right? I'm actually in Virginia, but I'm not very close to where the story takes place. Josh says, you should look at Alamo. So many different hats in it. Yeah. I will get there. Josh, with your help, with Ian's help, I will get there, because honestly, man, isn't it great to watch a movie, right? Like, obviously everybody, like some people may have been doing hatting for so long, they don't remember when they weren't into hatting. But myself, I've been doing this relatively, I got into this, I'm relatively new into this game. So there's so many movies that I've seen. This wasn't one of them, right? I had not seen Lawless in my pre-hatting days, right? But the other movies like The Untouchables, obviously The Godfather, all those movies, a lot of which I covered already, that I saw before I even got into hatting, and then rewatching them now as a hat enthusiast, I'm like, man, it really gives you a much bigger appreciation for the costuming and how the hats play. The hats, in essence, right, and the greater costumes play almost like a second character, right? Like we talked about the rain, right, in Road to Perdition. In these movies, what's underlying all of this is that these hats are part of, they're like secondary characters, right? They don't have speaking lines, but they do speak, right? They speak with the images that they invoke, right? That the idea of a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? That's very true. And in this movie, it's no different. So again, this takes place in rural Virginia, which is Franklin County. It's about 4 hours away from me. And it has to do with the moonshining business, right? We know that moonshining was something that was very synonymous with the Prohibition era, right? It's how a lot of people got their start in terms of businesses, right? The whole idea of the moonshiners, and then cars, right? If you're a car person, then you definitely are interested in the moonshining business, right? Because as was covered in this movie, a lot of the modifications, right? A lot of the tweaks that you saw in that culture of modifying your car to give it extra horsepower, a lot of that was born out of the the moonshine era, right? Because, well, cars were getting a lot more proliferated, right? As the cars were invented. And then we had this machine that can get you to point A to point B a lot quicker than you could by foot or by bicycle or otherwise. But now, how do we make it faster, right? And then these moonshiners, they needed that, right? Because, well, they were trying to outrun the cops, right? They were part of an illegal business, and they needed the fastest car in town, and they had the money, right? Because they were probably in all cash business. They had the money to go and buy any parts that were needed to make these modifications. So it really is like the moonshining business is like Fast and Furious, but in the 30s, right? Just again, you could probably have a whole show just dedicated on the moonshining cars, right? So, but that's not my expertise. You know, I do like cars, but I'm not a gearhead. But I do know a lot of gearheads, and I am fascinated with cars. I'm fascinated with machines, right? Like watches are just another machine. And guys, we tend to really hold on to those machines, right? We really love them, right? We even give them female names, right? Like that girl, right? Kind of like the musicians with the guitars, right? Everybody knows about Lucille, right? Lucille, I believe, was the guitar of B.B. King. Hopefully you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was B.B. King's guitar, Lucille. I just remember that. I just thought it was really cool that he gave his it's almost like his girlfriend, right? It's like, hey, this is my moneymaker, right? So anyhow, that's kind of like the lead up. And so this story focuses on the Bondurants, who were a real family in Virginia. They were real moonshiners. And it really, like, you get taken aback right by the hats right from Jump Street. So I'm going to share my screen here. If you guys are able to see this, just give me a quick holler. Keep the comments going, right? So I'm going to go, and even though I'm going to go through these photos, and maybe I'll go a little bit quicker, right? So depending on the participation, you guys, if you're watching along, feel free to participate. You know, if you got any comments, add them in there, right? I really want to have a very interactive show. You know, when Paul's here, and on the streams, it's all automatically interactive because, well, Paul's watching in real time. Sometimes he hasn't seen the movie, which is helpful, right? Because he's asking questions, he's making comments, and he's kind of giving you like that real-time feedback of somebody that's seen this from the first time. So right away, right, look at this hat. What an iconic hat, right? So you can kind of see like that color, right? That ribbon, right? He's got a shark gill ribbon on that, really sharp. That contrast is really beautiful. Man, yeah. Josh says he loves the weathered look. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the key in this, right? That sets this movie apart, right, from a lot of the Chicago-based gangster films, right? They were keen to tie in Chicago into this movie. Historically, I don't know how accurate that was. I can kind of believe it. It doesn't matter, like, right? It doesn't matter if it's historically accurate. It made for good theater because it's the hook, right? So people that are like, well, these are just a bunch of hicks from Virginia. Who cares about that? But once you start roping in Chicago, right, and the whole idea of the Chicago Prohibition era, you automatically start thinking Al Capone. You start thinking Pretty Boy Floyd, right? And I will tie into that, right, because there is a tie to that. So we'll get there. But look at that beautiful hat, right? This is Tom Hardy. Everybody kind of knows Tom Hardy, right? It's like, his resume, it just keeps growing. He's one of those it guys in Hollywood. But man, look at that hat. Look at that crown. Look at those crown dents in that shark gill ribbon. Man, what a beautiful hat. And again, weathered, very weathered hat, very beaten up. Right? This is a rural Virginia. These guys are not they're not people that dress up, right? But hey, that still looks sharp, right? Nobody can right? It gives if Tom Hardy were not wearing this hat right now, it'll give him a different look, right? And I'll show you a photo of Tom Hardy. He plays Forrest Bondurant, right? He's kind of like the leader of this band of brothers, right? So he's essentially, right, and here's the tie-in, right? Like when I saw this movie, and you can go and you can tell me, Luke, you're nuts, but I got very Godfather feels from this movie. You guys let me know if you got that same feel. So for those of that have seen this movie, if you got a sense that this movie had very, very, very similar vibes and feels that one got from watching The Godfather, and I'll get to that, right? So like if I had to say who who Forrest Bondurant reminds me of from The Godfather, it would be very much like Marlon Brando, right? He's the very kind of quiet, the leader, right? Let's see. Josh says it's a country version of The Godfather. I agree. I completely agree. I think that's exactly how I would describe this. It pretty much is the country version of The Godfather. It is a beautifully shot movie. Obviously, there are way more hats. Like it's just more of a hat movie than even The Godfather, which I think is a really good hat movie. But it goes to show you, like, there's very few scenes you don't see somebody with a hat in this movie, right? That's why I had to do the slideshows right from the jump, because there's just so many shots. So let's go. Let's look at the side profile. Look at that ribbon, man. Look at that ribbon. And then notice, right? One thing I want to point out for you guys that are watching this, or maybe watching this now, maybe watching this later on the when it's in the syndication, right? It's just, you got to see this movie, and then these still shots really heighten like how well lighting, right? We talked about this before, how well lighting gets used and really alters the character of the hat, right? Now these early photos that I'm showing you are in this very well lit, right? So you can see that felt on that hat, on that fedora. It looks like, for me, right, if I had to go guess, and Josh, you can chime in here, if you had to guess what what the length of this brim is, I want to say somewhere between 2 and 3/8 to something like close to 3 inch. It's a very decent sized brim. And it looks really good on Tom Hardy here, right? So Tom Hardy has a very full face. He's got like this very, like, Tom Hardy's physique. He's a very stout guy, not really overly tall, but he's like a very well built, kind of maybe like a Russell Crowe in Gladiator type build, right? Kind of like he's Bane, right? This is Bane. So he's a stout guy. This hat like looks really good on him, right? Like it really, and again, the color. This is the other thing. Besides the lighting, right, which enhances the color of this hat is a lighter color, right? You guys already know, right? The idea, right, behind a lot of The Godfather and the use of lighting and color of the felts. The lighting of the hat is trying to tell you something about this character. One, that this is not an evil man, right? He might be doing illegal things, but the color of his hat, and then obviously that ribbon that pops. This is also kind of a soft man, right? Like there's a vulnerability about this guy. He's like really tough on the outside, but he's also like kind of vulnerable, and that's I think the beauty of Forrest Bondurant in the movie. Josh says it looks like a 2 3/4 brim, judging by the amount of shade covering his face. Yeah, I think you're spot on. And then there's several hat makers that make a Forrest Bondurant fedora. I think Northwest is one of them. There's several others. I could probably provide you a link later on if anybody's really interested in it. But I've seen at least 3. And it goes to show you, right? You got 3 hat makers that said, I'm putting out, right? Everybody knows about the indie, right? Everybody has an indie. Well, I don't know if I have an indie, to be honest, but I probably will one day. I'll have an Indiana Jones, inspired hat. But this is my Forrest hat, my Forrest Bondurant hat. And we had 3 hat makers, right? And there are probably many others that I haven't been able to find that make a Forrest Bondurant model, right? Kind of like the Godfather model, right? Everybody has a Godfather Hamburg. The Forrest Bondurant is a model that exists, and it goes to show you how great, how movies influence real life, right? Life imitates art, art imitates life. That whole reciprocal relationship. People saw this, hatters saw that and said, you know what? I want to make that. That's a sharp hat. I want to make that hat. And obviously, if they're making it, they're probably selling it, and people are buying it. So they're out there. You know, who knows? Like I said, this hat is like my particular hat is Kavanaugh from the 1930s. So obviously, well before this movie was made. But it makes me wonder why, right? I bought this hat fairly locally. It was in Maryland where I picked up this hat. It might have been, this is period appropriate, right? That for me tells me that the hat that Forrest is wearing here is the costumer. I believe her name was Margot Wilson. Hopefully I got that right. Margot Wilson, came up with she was the costume designer on Lawless, and it looks like she hit based on my fedora. I think she hit a home run with this. Man, it's just like I said, this is a gruff country guy who's wearing like a well-beaten fedora, but it looks really elegant. You know, it just goes to show you like the power of the fedora. So anyway, I won't belabor that too much more because again, I could go on and on, but really the photos really tell the story. We talked about lighting. This is a photo where you can see a little bit less light, right? That felt takes on a kind of different character. And you can see that brim you can definitely see the shark gill ribbon, but you can see the size of that brim. So definitely very functional, right? These are guys, right? That probably they're country guys. They're out working, even though they're moonshiners. Moonshining is also a process, right? So these are working class people. These are country people, and they need that brim size, right? At least Forrest does, and it looks really sharp. Like I said, look at that. Look at his jaw outline, and look at that hat on top. It almost looks like it was made. It was custom made for his head. And who knows? Like I said, I don't know much about who actually produced the hats of Lawless. If you guys are able to find out and maybe want to share it in either now or in a different stream, I'm very interested in finding out who constructed the hats that were used in Lawless. It should be a contemporary hatter, right? This is 2012, so probably that hatter still exists. It really is interesting to find out. So Josh says, what's interesting about Tom's character is he uses the hat as a tool. He does not take time to style it. He just wears it. Yeah. It shows that effortless style, right? I talk a lot about the idea of the knockaround hat, right? Obviously, I'm somebody that has like 50 plus hats between my flat caps, my one straw hat, and then all my various fine hats, my fedoras, my Hamburgs, my pork pies, etc. And then my bowler. I have 50 plus hats, and but even with 50 plus hats, I have those hats that I grab when I don't want to think about it, right? I call those my knockaround hat, and pretty much this is Forrest's only hat, right? By all means, we have not seen any other hat on Forrest's head. This is his only hat, and well, it's the one he's gonna grab because he doesn't care about it, right? He doesn't care. Not that he doesn't care about it, but he's not sitting there worried about like how it looks. He's just putting it on because it's functional. Yeah, Northwest Hat Company is associated with making the hats for the film. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. Northwest Hat actually sells the hat as well. So it's interesting that the company that produced the hat for the film actually decided to resell it. And I think that's another nod, right? That's not something you see very often. So yeah, shout out to Northwest Hat Company. I don't know where they're based. My guess is based on their name. They're probably based in like Washington State, but I could be wrong. That's just my bias. When I hear Northwest, I automatically think Washington State. But you guys, Josh, maybe you can tell the viewers here and share with us where they're actually located. I just want to make sure I'm not propagating ignorance here. Again, doesn't mean that everything you're going to hear on this stream or any of my live stream is pure fact. You should never assume that. You should always kind of do your own homework, right? I use ChatGPT a lot. ChatGPT is known to be inaccurate sometimes, but I'll tell you, I'm like, this is what ChatGPT told me. You guys go and fact check it. Eugene, Oregon. All right. Well, Eugene, Oregon. I've never been to Eugene. I've actually never been to Oregon. I want to go to Portland. Eugene, I heard some good things about. There's Bend, Oregon. Just beautiful, beautiful country. when I say country, I mean countryside or like views, right? Mountain views, right? That's something I think that Franklin County and Oregon have in common in terms of the mountains, right? In Franklin County, you got the Blue Ridge Mountains. That's something that's, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not somebody that hikes, but every time I go out west on the 66, you get the Blue Ridge Mountains in the background. Oh my gosh, you can't get, like, you just want to stop the car and just go out and start pull out your phone and start taking photos, right? It's that beautiful. And those kind of the mountains that are prevalent here in the I guess southwestern, the kind of the Shenandoah Valley area of Franklin County. Just for those folks that are familiar with Virginia, Franklin County, or maybe not familiar, but are familiar with other towns, Franklin County is somewhere between Roanoke at the north and southeast is Martinsville, which is actually referenced in the movie later in the movie. So those are kind of like the big towns that are kind of sandwiching, Franklin County, right? So there you go. And I believe in the movie they talk about, the city, and they might have been talking about Martinsville. That might have been the city they're talking about, or they could have been talking about Roanoke. But I want to say that they're talking about Martinsville. So shout out to all my fellow Virginians out there. Even though I was born and raised in New York, I've actually lived in Virginia, right? Even though I'm in Northern Virginia, and everybody that knows Northern Virginia, we're definitely a little bit different than the rest of Virginia, right? We're very close to DC, and we're a little bit more influenced by the DC culture, that exists. But no matter what you say, we're south of the Mason-Dixon line. We're in the South. So regardless of what you think about Northern Virginia, but I've lived in Virginia, proud to say, for longer than I've even lived in New York. So shout out to Virginia, shout out to New York, two states that are very close to my heart, and I just happen to call Virginia home for, approaching 25 years now, so I've seen this state, thanks to my son. I've seen a lot of the rest of the Virginia through traveling with his baseball tournaments. So I got to go and I got to visit Roanoke. I don't know if I've ever made it to Franklin County, but there's a very good chance I did. I have been to Martinsville, passing through. I didn't spend a whole lot of time there, but I've seen, like I said, when my son was going to college, he visited a lot of schools in the South, and again, through his baseball tournaments, I got to see a lot of Virginia. Very beautiful countryside. Again, those mountains, you cannot. If you haven't been to Virginia, I suggest it. I would probably if you want to go to Virginia for the first time, obviously there's Virginia Beach, there's the coastline, right? But I would recommend the Roanoke area, especially if you're outdoorsy. If you're outdoorsy, visit the Shenandoah Valley, because the Blue Ridge Mountains, trust me, it's worth your while. Plus Roanoke is beautiful. Like, that whole area is beautiful. You got UVA there. So that's like the local big school. There's the other university that I'm Radford. Radford is near there. Sorry, not UVA. Sorry, I meant to say Virginia Tech. Sorry, UVA guys, and Virginia Tech folks. Right? It's not UVA. UVA is in Charlottesville. Virginia Tech is in Roanoke, and then you got Radford nearby as well. I believe Blacksburg would be the town that Virginia Tech is in. So sorry, I had a little bit of a senior moment there, but you guys, thanks for indulging me. So so look, this hat, again, as I go through the photos, take a look at the lighting. Again, that big brim, that beautiful ribbon, that shark gill ribbon, it's just gorgeous. Like I said, you kind of already know what the story is about. This is a photo of that same hat, and you can see, right? This is the hat. It's got some brim trim, right? The brim trim is a little bit different, right? It's a little bit slightly lighter colored than the felt, but it all goes together. And even then, look how crushed up that crown is. This is a guy that doesn't he's not pussyfooting with this hat. This is a functional piece of his wardrobe, and it's just there, and he has it in his lap. He's got you can see how stout Tom Hardy is. He's a very, I don't know if squat is the right term. I'm going to use the term stout. Squat might be a little dismissive, but he's a stocky dude, right? Built, I guess we would say back in the day. Very well built gentleman. Again, that's a beautiful hat. Again, regardless of the shape that it's in, it's weathered, but that's because it's a functional piece. And then now I'm gonna keep pointing out lighting. So you can see here a lot, very well lit. Now you can see some of the nuances here with the lighting. Look at this. Again, this hat does not look bad in any light, but it does change the difference, right? Look at this scene. I think this is early in the scene when he meets up with Charlie Rakes and Mason Wardell, who we'll talk about Wardell a little bit, but briefly later on. Right? He's giving that stern look. This is very similar to the look that we saw in Road to Perdition when Tom Hanks was looking at, right? Michael Sullivan Sr. was looking right at Michael Sullivan Jr. in the back right before they were going to the funeral. He's like, hey, I don't want to see any dice or else, So he's looking at, I believe, Charlie Rakes right now. He's giving him the death stare and that hat, right? Because of the lighting, right? It invokes, even though this is a light color felt, with the lighting here, you start seeing some of that darker shade, right? It's the very same hat, but now he looks much more menacing, right? With that death stare. So like the actor and the hat go together with the lighting to invoke the emotion and what the situation is at, right? You don't have to tell, you don't have to even see the movie to know that Tom Hardy in this scene, he means business. This is business only. Forrest Bondurant, just beautifully shot. This movie is beautiful. I'll show you here in lighting again with a cigar in his mouth. Again, this shows you a little bit about how the hat looks on top of a guy with some broad shoulders. He's got a big chest, right? Again, not a very tall guy, but that tall crown and that big brim do not look bad on this guy. It looks really like this hat was made for him. Just gorgeous, gorgeous. And I'll keep going here because the photos are endless. Again, this doesn't look like it came out of the movie. This might have been like a photo shoot they did either while they made the movie or promoting the movie. But it still looks great because look, it looks like there's a bunch of natural light being shined on Tom Hardy here. And again, that crown, man. Look at that crown. Again, these are country folk, right? This is not a hat that is a fedora that is made for going out to the clubs. This is a work hat, but it's still beautiful. Man, it's beautiful. So that's extreme lighting right there. And then we start seeing it in the dark. Look at that. I just love, and again, if I knew more about fashion, right, I could probably go on, right? If we ever brought somebody really that knows fashion, maybe if we brought Margot Wilson here, she could probably talk about like all the piece of the wardrobe here. I got to think that this wardrobe is no accident, right? That sweater, right? It looks like maybe I don't know if it's a cardigan or whatever the sweater he has on top. Then he has an under, like maybe that's a vest. I don't know. But the look is really sharp. Again, for somebody that's in the country, again, this is not a poor guy, right? They might look dirt poor, but these are moonshiners. They're making a lot of money illegally by selling this moonshine. But they're working class people, right? They're not out there very flashy, at least not Forrest, and definitely not the older brother, right? Howard. Howard and Forrest are not flashy people, but we do get some flash in here. That's why we'll talk about that in a little bit. Man, what a great. So now this is another beautiful scene, like a beautiful shot. Look at this. I believe this is by a campfire. You can see that glow. And again, if you didn't know any better, you would think this is a different hat. You would think this is a different hat, but it's the same freaking hat. And look at the angles. Look at the angles, right? The crown doesn't look as tall in this angle, but the lighting, you could see some of that front of that ribbon. Just again, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Man, wow, this movie is gorgeous. I just can't get enough of it. Like I said, this is going to show you, like I said, a lot of things. Maybe when you're watching the movie, you don't notice this as much. But when you look at still shots, this is why I really like the still shots when I do this Fedora Friday, because when I watch the movie, it just doesn't jump out. All right, you're busy listening to the dialogue. You're captured by what's going on in that scene, and these still shots really, right? That's why video will never replace photography. There's a time and place for photography. There's a time and place for video. They go hand in hand. They're related, right? Film is basically a bunch of photographs kind of sped up, right? And shown, and you create motion. But man, isn't like stillness, right? That's if you're into stoicism, right? And I'm not an expert in stoicism, but the ideas of Marcus Aurelius, right? It's one of the cornerstones of stoicism is the idea of stillness, right? Infinite stillness, right? And it becomes like a nirvana. We talked about like the hierarchy of needs when you get self-actualized. Stillness is a really core concept in stoicism, and it has ties to baseball, right? If you know anything about baseball, you talk about, right? So if my son played baseball, this is kind of where I get this from. And you guys know I have a baseball channel. So baseball is really, my Mets won yesterday, by the way. I was live streaming yesterday on my Mets channel. But if you are really into baseball, you know that if you want to work on your swing, you have to go and you have to create stillness, right? How do you create stillness in baseball on your baseball swing? Well, you use what's called a batting tee, right? In all the way when you start in T-ball, right? T-ball is called T-ball because, well, the ball's not moving, right? Because kids are not as coordinated when they're like 3 or 4, whenever you play T-ball. So they keep the ball still, right? So you can hit the ball, right? And you don't have a boring game when kids like throwing the ball and throw over somebody's head and things like that. But Major League Baseball players use batting tees, right? It's not something you grow out of. You never grow out of using a baseball tee. So if you got any kids out there, right, that want to play baseball, I'd love to talk to you. You know, if you guys have a son or a nephew or a grandson that's playing baseball, we talked to Robert on Wednesday, and I believe he said his grandkids are playing baseball. I heard baseball mentioned. I think it was his grandkids. So you guys can correct me if you remember. But if you do, first of all, buy a tee, right? If your kid's just getting into baseball, and 2, never sell the tee. Maybe upgrade your tee. Maybe you want to go and get a kid's model and then upgrade it. That's fine, but never get rid of the batting tee. I remember my son when he was in high school, and I would talk about T-ball, like using a batting tee. He was like, "Why do we have to do that?" You know? And it's like, well, because you want to create stillness, right? You want to eliminate all the extra variables and create a ball, right? So that, right, if the ball's not moving, then what's impacting the baseball and how it flies off the bat? It's your swing, right? You eliminate everything else, and then you're left with what you want to work on, which is your swing. Anyway, I won't go. This is not a baseball channel. This is a hat channel. I'll move on. Sorry. Thanks for humoring me, guys. So yeah, another beautiful shot. This is probably if I had to pick a favorite still shot, this will probably be number 1 or somewhere up there. It's just that, man, look at that glow. Man, beautiful. Again, this is another angle, a little bit less lighting, some lighting from the side. Again, you get a feel for that crown dent, right? If you look at his right, our left, and you see that crown dent, and who knows, maybe it's in reverse for you guys because I'm sharing this on my screen, but you guys know the side that you can see that crown dent and you can see that crown height, man, and again that brim length. Wow, just amazing. Yeah, Josh says that hat just keeps changing colors. Yeah, again, the same hat, unless the directors pulled the switcheroo and actually use a different hat. That's possible, but I doubt it. I feel like this is the same exact hat. It's just lighting is playing on this. And if you were here for Tuesday's talk when Steve Heck showed off his real velour hats, you can see how lighting, right? When he was showing that hat up front, that lighting really played with that velour and then made it really pop, right? For me, I'm like, man, I got to get me one of those, right? You know, I want to have a hat like that. You know, I don't know if I will be able to ever to find one of those hats, but if I do, I'll grab it and I'll make it mine because, man, under that lighting, holy cow, that hat, it just pops. And same way with the Forrest Bondurant's hat here, man, it pops. And shout out to Northwest Hat Company. Thanks to Josh, we know that Northwest Hat Company sells this hat, and they made the hat for the movie, and they also sell it on their website. So you can go and buy the original, I guess. Maybe not the original, meaning not the one they used on set, but this from the same maker. I think that's really cool. You know, I might have to get me one of those. Although I'm pretty happy with this being my Forrest hat, right? But if you guys want it, now you know where you can get it. You can go get it at Northwest Hat Company. You can go and look up maybe Forrest or Forrest Bondurant on their website. And if you guys need help, I'll provide you a link. Yeah, this is another side profile. Look at that shape. It goes to show you how pliable this hat is, right? This looks like a 1930s gangster shape here, right? Like a Chicago-style gangster shape, right? It's like, yeah, Shay, yeah. You know, it's like this is what it looks like. And this is the same hat. This is the same freaking hat. I just think it's like, my God, this is another character in the movie. Like Forrest's hat might as well have been a credit in the movies, right? It had Tom Hardy's fedora, right? That should have done that because it's another character. And then the lighting would be another character, you know? The Tom Hardy's fedora, and the lighting on Tom Hardy's fedora, you know? All characters, all important, all playing symbiotically into creating these scenes and these beautiful stills. Man, they're gorgeous. All right, so I think we kind of beat up Forrest Bondurant, right? So he honestly is not the star of this movie, right? He's technically kind of like he's one of the stars, but right, again, if Forrest Bondurant was Vito Corleone, then Jack Bondurant is Michael Corleone, right? This is Shia LaBeouf playing the youngest brother, Jack Bondurant. And you can see here, he's got I want to say this is a Hamburg, right? If you look at that brim curl, and this is a very weathered Hamburg. And I think that's brilliant, right? I don't know. Again, I'm not as I'm not as cued in onto a lot of the distressed hats. Maybe Josh, you know better. Is it very popular to see a weathered Hamburg out there? And if it's not, we should have it. Like there should be just like a Forrest Bondurant model, you should be able to purchase a Jack Bondurant Hamburg because it's really good. Man, he makes this hat look really good. Again, we all know, we talked ad nauseum about the Hamburg, but Shia LaBeouf, his weathered Hamburg in Lawless, iconic. Just as iconic as the Forrest fedora. It's just beautiful. And again, the outfits, right? Here he's talking to Bertha, the girl that he's courting. She is an Amish girl. He's out there just like, he's a shy kid, right? This is like the character arc for Jack Bondurant. It's very similar to Michael Corleone, right? If you watched the original Godfather, and if you didn't, you can watch my first Fedora Friday on The Godfather. He starts off as this kind of like nobody takes him seriously. He's very shy, except Michael's not that. Like he's not Jack Bondurant type of shy, right? It's like he's a war hero at the beginning of The Godfather, right? So he's not like inexperienced in that respect, right? So okay, so Josh said it's not. Hamburg is usually for upper class and well maintained. It must have been a gift from the brothers to him to strive for more. Yeah, again, it goes to show you. Again, we know that, right? We know that the Hamburg is something that is done to signify, right, stature, right? And it's when it's worn, and just like in The Godfather, right? So again, I think Josh hit the nail right on the head. The Hamburg is usually used for a character that's trying to say to the world, hey, take me seriously. If you don't take me seriously as a person, I got this hat. I'm trying to come up in the world, right? Michael Corleone did that. When he came back from Sicily, you saw him wear the Hamburg for the first time. No, he hasn't experienced what he will experience, but he's telling everybody, he's signaling, right? We talked about signaling theory. He's signaling, I'm on the come up. I'm the guy that you want to talk to. Josh says it's used a lot, as you can see the hole at the point. Yeah, again, that's probably from that right, like Paul would mention, when he grabs the hat from the front, it creates weakness in the felt, and that's how you get these holes. Shout out to Paul, right? You taught us a lot with that, right? Now I'm a little bit more careful with my fine hats. Sometimes I still grab them by the crown, but otherwise I'll try to grab them by the brim. Maybe I'll go right here from behind and pull it forward. But if you're doing that, if you're grabbing your fedoras by the crown, again, maybe you don't give a crap. Maybe you just want to. Maybe you're looking to create these holes naturally, right? That's the thing that certain people are out for, right? Some people will buy a distressed hat. They want it to look like this brand new, or they want to buy it brand new and they want to use it. It's kind of like leather jackets, right? I just bought my first leather jacket, recently, and I posted it on Facebook. It's a shot leather jacket. And the reason why leather is so endearing to a lot of folks that really love leather is that leather gets character, right? It gets patina, just like a nice ribbon would, and a nice brim trim. It gets patina over time. Even the felt can get a patina, right? When the sun works on it, right? When you start working on it with your hands, right? You got oils in your hands. These things do things to the hat. Maybe for some people it's ruining it. For other people, it's like, no, it's giving it character, right? This hat now has character because I gave it that hole, right? So again, it goes to show you there's really no wrong or right way to do this hat hobby. If you're somebody that loves the weathered look, loves the patina, whether you buy it from you buy it off the top, right, from somebody maybe like Josh, or you buy it new, right, with no patina, with no distressing, and then you want to create it naturally, right? Like those purists from the leather. I want to go to Shot. I want to go to Vanson. I want to buy a brand new leather jacket, and I want to use that jacket every single day, right? And sometimes that's what it takes, right? If you buy some kind of leather, it will probably take you a lifetime to be able to create the patina that some people are going after. But that's part of the process, right? It's like a work of art. It's a living work of art that you go and you invest in because you value that outcome, right? You go, right? It's like you follow the process so that we have the eye on the prize. The prize is that patina, right? That character mark, right? I'll go on and on. Like, again, it's very similar for watches, right? Some people are like, I want my watch to be impeccable. Like, I want to have it into a climate-controlled environment, kind of like my cigars, and I want it to look like it rolled off the assembly line or from the hatter's delivery, right? And I want it to stay that way. And other people are like, no. I want to use this thing. I want to use this watch. I want the sun to beat onto the dial. I want that leather that maybe I have a leather strap, and I want it to get it really weathered, but naturally. I want to do it. And then some people will pay for it, right? They'll go and they'll buy antique watches because the work has already been done, right? Somebody probably wore that watch every day for 50 years. And then maybe they passed away and the relatives sold the watch or whatever. And then the next guy or gal comes along, buys that antique watch, and now it's done for you, right? Like, again, there's no right or wrong way to do this, right? One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? I wear a Longines watch. Some people might think, oh, Longines, that's pretty prestigious. And somebody else is like, Longines, what are you, a joke? Why don't you get yourself a Rolex or an Omega or something? You know what I mean? Or a Patek Philippe or Audemars Piguet, So shout out to my watch collectors, It's like collectors, have similarities. Again, I don't consider myself a watch collector. I have a decent number of watches, not as many as hats. But I find myself just wearing the same watch every day, right? It's kind of like my pie. Even though I have a decent number of good watches, this just happens to be my favorite. It's very tiny. It's only 26 millimeters. If you guys know about watches, that's a tiny watch. It's a dress watch, right? A lot of guys will make that mistake of just buying the biggest watch they can. They basically got a grandfather clock on their hand. And nothing wrong with that, right? If that's your style and you really like it, right? For me, I go kind of a little bit of the opposite. I really like the smaller watches, right? Some people call them ladies' watches. I'm like, whatever, you know. It's just everybody has their own unique style, and I just think there's something really elegant about the dress watch. Something maybe under 35 millimeters, right? This one happens to be 26, but again, everybody's different. Everybody's wrist size is different. Watches will look different, just like when lighting, the dial will look different. They're all differences. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Field Pilot watch. Yes, I got a Hamilton. I have a Hamilton. My very first, probably my first serious watch was a Hamilton Khaki Field Auto automatic. It's in black. You know, it's on the silver bracelet, right? The you know, the stainless bracelet. Really classy watch. You know what I mean? It's not an overly expensive watch, but it's not cheap either, right? It's about, you know, you probably get one for like 500, 600 bucks. I think brand new they're like 700, but you don't need to pay that much. But it's a great watch. Shout out to Hamilton. Hamilton's one of those watches that gets respect no matter what. You know, the Field watch, obviously, but Hamilton has that tradition, right? They happen to be an American company that is now Swiss made, right? So everybody knows Switzerland, and then obviously the military spec, right? The military spec watch, the Field and Pilot watch, right? Land, sea, and air. Those are three themes that you'll see in watches. And some people will like aviator watch, you know, the aviation watches, the Pilot watch. Some people will prefer the Field watch. I lean towards more the Field watch only because I like the numbers. I like to see all the numbers on the dial. This one's not one of those watches because it's a dress watch. But my khaki, my Hamilton khaki, you know, Field automatic has the numbers, and it's that basic black. It's just really, if you had to do a one watch that could do it all, it would be one of those, right? And you know, obviously, if you had enough money for a Rolex, you would get a Rolex Explorer, maybe, right? That's a good one watch kind of guy. If you did an Omega, it would be an Omega Tierra, right? I believe what is it called? Jesus, Aquaterra, the Aquaterra. I use the Spanish term, but Aquaterra, right, which is water and land, right? Aquaterra. Great watches. Is just I don't want to spend like, you know, $8,000 to, you know, $12,000 on a watch. You know, so I'm not getting myself an Aquaterra, at least not right now. Maybe as a milestone later on, I'll jump into that. But this Longines scratching the itch right now. And when I don't want to wear this Longines, I got the khaki Field automatic. Those scratch the itch for me, and I'm just not that serious of a watch collector to go through it. This watch just happens to mean a lot more to me because it belonged to a member of the family. So yeah. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Just to do watches, just like it is hats and anything you love, cars, right? You know, I can go on and on. So yeah, this I'm gonna just call it a Hamburg because I'm pretty sure it is a Hamburg. But it's a different type of Hamburg than we've seen, and you probably will see in a lot of movies. That's what, again, Lawless does. It fills in a lot of blanks when it comes to hat movies for me, right? Right. We already know a lot of Prohibition movies. You'll see the fancy fedora. The weathered fedora existed, and I'm super glad that Lawless was made. And I'm super glad for you, Josh, that you suggested it. Here's another look, right? Maybe a little bit less lighting on that same hat. Again, the outfit. Look at the outfit. Now, again, Jack Bondurant's a little younger, right? He's the youngest brother of the Bondurants. He's up and coming. He's very mousy in the beginning of the movie, right? The first half of the movie, he's basically, you know, a mouse. He's ascending, right? He has big dreams, right? He wants to be like his older brothers. He wants to be better than his older brothers. He has ambition, right? Just like Michael Corleone, just like Rocky, he has ambition. He wants to do more, right? He wants to get the girl, right? He wants to go and he wants to court Bertha, but he's very shy. But that's what's so beautiful about the Jack Bondurant character. He is basically Michael Corleone in this country version of The Godfather. So yeah, this is you know, another good shot. This is kind of when he starts getting his footing and he starts really talking to right. He cuts his first deal, his first moonshine deal, and he's got a little bit of money, and then he buys this camera just so he could take a photo of Bertha, and then Bertha took photos of him. So it's just a really beautiful shot, really beautiful story, actually. And then here you can see a kind of another side profile view of him trying to start the courting process with Bertha, right? He's kind of like saying like, hey, look at me. You want to be with this guy, right? Like, you don't know it yet, but I'm the guy for you. And then Bertha is kind of a little, she's an Amish girl, right? She has humble beginnings and comes from like a religious family, but she's got a little sass to her as well, right? She's there talking. She knows that Jack is trying to court her, and she brings that, she just says it, right? She just goes like, you're courting me, right? Right? Like, this is what you're doing, right? And he's like, yeah, you know, and you could tell that she just endeared her, she just endeared herself to him, or even more, by showing that little personality that she showed, right? Because up until that point, you don't get to see a lot of personality, right? Because she's got this whole Amish thing, this whole Amish culture that she comes from that is repressing her personality. But Jack is just like touched that he brought a little bit out of that. He brought out the sass in her. And there's something beautiful about that, right? Like, if you know, in terms of relationships, you know about relationship dynamics. Sometimes you bring out that part of your partner, and your partner brings that part out of you. They're like, wow, I never showed that part of myself to anybody. And you capture that. I just think that's really beautiful part of the story. Again, this is based on a book. The book, it was written by Matt Bondurant, which is a descendant of the Bondurants. It was called The Wettest County in the Country, I believe it's called. So if you guys are book readers, I'm not, but if you are, and you are interested in not just watching the movie, but reading the book, it's called The Wettest County in the Country by Matt Bondurant. Great film. And then, so you can see, again, the story of Jack Bondurant is one of ascendance. So as he starts getting more comfortable in the moonshining business, he starts spending more money on his look. So at some point, he drops the weathered Hamburg and goes for this little bit more Chicago style newsboy cap, and it looks really sharp, man. This kid, like Shia LaBeouf, his character kills it with the fashion, right? So this is where Lawless starts giving you a little bit more of that Chicago style flash, right? So you're like, all right, I'm done to seeing these weathered look. Jack Bondurant's the guy that you want to focus on, right? Because he's that country boy. He knows the Chicago look, and he knows that he basically wants to be the Al Capone of Virginia, right? So he's like, all right, my brothers aren't flashy, but that's where I'm different. You know, I'm going to do it better than they did. You know, I'm going to spend some of this money because I'm going to get that girl, and I'm going to get everything I want. I'm going to get the fastest car. I'm going to get everything. It's pretty much Scarface, right? Another non-hat movie, right, would be Scarface, and it's an Al Pacino movie, not The Godfather, but it's another Al Pacino called Scarface. Really iconic movie, and it's a story of ambition, right? And when ambition gets too crazy, that's kind of like, it's one of those moral dilemmas, right? Like, you have to kind of, ambition's good, but too much ambition can be deadly. So shout out to Al Pacino. He's just iconic actor, man. Jeez. Shia LaBeouf, I think, is his performance here, just like a lot of his performances are really underrated. Shia LaBeouf, I think, he demands your attention, right? Like his range, I would say he's like the next Johnny Depp. And he's probably not the next Johnny Depp. He's like the current Johnny Depp, right? Because Johnny Depp is a little bit older now. Shia LaBeouf, I feel like, is taking up the mantle. At least he's one of the actors that's taking up that mantle of like these, like it guys, like a Hollywood leading man. He's a shorter guy, right? Right. So he's very much like Al Pacino that way. He's a shorter guy, but he has a commanding presence. And on top of that, he has an emotional range that a lot of actors can't brag about, right? Shia LaBeouf can do that. That kid is talented. Shout out to Shia LaBeouf. All right. So we talked about Marlon Brando, right? We talked about Michael Corleone. He's a country version of Marlon Brando, country version of Michael Corleone. Well, what about Sonny? Well, we do have Sonny Corleone, and that's Howard here. Now, you can tell Howard is the biggest Bondurant. He's also the oldest Bondurant, and he's not the leader, right? Sonny Corleone was a leader eventually, but he failed. But he was a bruiser, right? He was a guy that he was the muscle, and Howard Bondurant is the muscle of the Bondurants. Not the smartest guy in the world, definitely not a cuddly guy. Look at this guy. This is a big dude. This is a guy that's gonna punch your lights out. And he might do it, just without even thinking, right? And that's why his character's in here. Is he's what happens when you have the muscle of Forrest Bondurant without the brains or the forethought, right? Without the calmness of Forrest Bondurant, right? He just doesn't have that attribute. He's just there to beat people up, and he's beloved and he's needed, but he's a bruiser, right? He's kind of like the button guy. So, and then you can see, again, he has a dark hat. He has that dark hat throughout the movie, and then we'll take a look more at the angles here. Again, doesn't look as elegant. Kind of looks, I don't. Maybe in that other shot with some lighting, you get to see a little bit more of that ribbon, right? It kind of looks like a brown ribbon. So this is like a bluish green felt with a brown ribbon. Still not a bad looking hat, but definitely like not as elegant as the hat worn by Forrest Bondurant, and certainly not something that Jack was going to wear, right? Even his weathered Homburg looked a little bit more elegant than Howard Bondurant's hat. Again, he's not a cuddly guy. Here you go. He's drinking moonshine. That's the other vice, right? We know that the characters here do drink, right? Not Hank, but Howard happens to be the Bondurant that really, right? He gets high on his own supply, right? So you see him getting drunk, and it actually costs, it almost costs Forrest his life, right? He's out there getting drunk in the forest, and he was supposed to be there when Forrest was meeting up with some out-of-towners, and then you kind of know what happened to Forrest. Luckily, he made it through, but he made sure to blame Howard, and you could see Howard later like being regretful. He knew he screwed up. Here's with some good lighting here, and you can see, all right, here's a little bit more elegant. You can see a little bit more of that blue felt. It really is, right? It pretty much is the same hat that Forrest is wearing, just a different color combination. Right? So Forrest's hat is kind of like I don't know what that would that be. I don't know if it's fawn. Maybe fawn is the color. But it has that maybe pecan. Maybe pecan's the color. But you can see that elegant color combination. But for Howard, you get a little bit more traditional color combination. You got like a bluish felt here. With, again, depending on the lighting, it could be a brown ribbon. Here it doesn't look brown, but in the other shots you can tell it was more of a brown ribbon. Excuse me. Again, I don't really, and this is a more up close of that same shot. I think, again, the hats, right? They both got brim trim, but these hats just really look good, They really look good. And here's kind of a shot of all the brothers together. From right to left, you got Forrest with his hat off in his hand. You got in the middle, you got you got Jack, right, the youngest, with his hat in his hand, and then you got Howard, who's like, I'm not taking off my hat, right? He's like, what? Make me, right? He's got his hands on his hips. He's like, make me take this hat off. I dare you. I love it. All right, so that's enough for the Bondurant brothers. I do want to go into the other hats, right? There's another character here that's, well, first of all, he's played by Gary Oldman, right? Gary Oldman is a great actor. And he happens to play a Chicago-based gangster here that makes his way into town. Again, we talked about Jack's admiration for the Chicago style. In town, you actually have a legitimate Chicago gangster in the form of Floyd Banner, right? Played by Gary Oldman. Look at this guy. Look at that pinstripe suit. Look at that. I want to say this is a Hamburg as well. But again, with that kind of like that cigarette or that cigarillo in his mouth, like this is a badass guy, right? He comes out with the Tommy gun, like he's serious, right? And for all you guys that want to know and haven't already figured out, Floyd Banner was kind of a combination character, right, of two like Chicago icons. One obviously was Pretty Boy Floyd, the famous bank robber, Chicago-based bank robber in from the Chicago area, right? So from the 30s, and Pretty Boy Floyd was shown and depicted in the movie Public Enemies, which I'll cover here at some point as well. Iconic Johnny Depp movie. But yeah, he's a combination. Floyd Banner is a combination of Pretty Boy Floyd as well as Al Capone, right? Everybody knows Al Capone, right? Al Capone's an iconic gangster, also an iconic hat wearer. And so yeah, Floyd Banner, played by Gary Oldman, badass character, doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, but when he does, he commands the screen. Look at that guy. Look at that profile. Very, very sharp hat, very sharp suit, and he's got the Tommy gun, right? That's like speak softly and carry a big stick, right? Instead of the big stick, it's basically the big Tommy gun. He's gonna cut people down. Badass character here, very badass. Probably the second most badass character in this movie after Charlie Rakes, played by Guy Pearce. That hat, look at that mug. Look at that mug, man. He's like, you know what? You should be scared of me. If not, well, I feel bad for you. Just a great hat, great look. Again, Chicago-based outfit with the pinstripe suit. Just this guy he's all business, right? This is a kind of a farther away shot. You can see kind of the whole outfit. He's got a Tommy gun in his hand. This is from the vantage point of Jack Bondurant. He's looking at Floyd Banner getting into a shootout right in front of his face, and all he can be like, oh my gosh, I love that guy. Meaning like, I want to be that guy so bad, right? It's like watching a movie in front of him, right? And then at some point when Floyd Banner finishes murdering somebody, he goes and sees Jack Bondurant, watching him, and then gives him a wink, and then walks by really calm and cool. It's like an iconic scene. And then after he goes away, Jack Bondurant comes in and starts collecting the shell casings from the Tommy gun, because he's like, he wants to bring it back and show everybody what he found and what happened right in front of his face in our small town of Franklin County, Virginia. So another character besides Floyd Banner that had limited screen time but had kind of the hat look was the Commonwealth Attorney. Now, if you know the movie, you know that the Commonwealth Attorney, these were like some of the bad guys, right? These were like the antagonists, right? So this is the boss. Mason Wardell is the boss of Charlie Rakes. He's the guy that's has Charlie Rakes going after the Bondurants. So you can see here, this is kind of like a Boss Hoss kind of look, right? Everybody knows about the Boss Hoss, right? It's actually a hat, right? The Boss Hoss hat. Everybody knows the Boss Hoss hat, and this is like Boss Hoss in the movie, right? It's played by I forgot the name of the actor, but the character's name is Mason Wardell. He is the Commonwealth Attorney. So this is kind of like an upfront shot. You can see he's kind of very dismissive in his look. He's like, hey, I run things here. And then you can see here, this is not a great shot. I couldn't find a lot of great stills from this movie, but I could blow this up. And you can see here, Forrest Bondurant looking into the car as he's talking to Mason Wardell. And again, Mason Wardell is very dismissive of the Bondurants. So yeah, and obviously I didn't go into Charlie Rakes, the character, because Charlie Rakes does not wear any hats, but very iconic look, right? So very, very meticulous dresser, right? You could tell he's very OCD, right? He's kind of like a germaphobe, right? He always wears gloves because he doesn't want to get blood on his hands. He does bloody work, but he doesn't want to get it on his hands. He's a germaphobe. But yeah, one thing I wanted to go through is that there's actually really good photos of the real life characters that inspired these movie characters, and I want to go into those as well. So you can see here is a photo of the actual Bondurants, brothers here, right? So from my left to the right, the very youngest here, you got Jack Bondurant. Right in the middle, you got Forrest Bondurant. And then right there at the right, towering over both of them, is Howard Bondurant. And again, this was taken in Franklin County in 1917. So I believe the movie took place in 1931. Actually, ironically, the very same year that Road to Perdition took place, if I remember correctly. So again, it's Prohibition era. It's going to hit into that late 20s, early 30s, only because at right towards that time, that's when a lot of the violence that was managed to creep itself into this industry, right? You had a lot of players that were established by then, and now they're like, okay, now they're starting to try to eat each other up, and there's a lot of bickering and obviously a lot of murder that's happening to kind of maintain power. So obviously we know about Al Capone, right? The St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago. That's probably the most famous example. But again, this was happening in various pockets in the U.S. Throughout this time, and it was no coincidence. It basically is enough time has passed by where people are established, and now they're like ambition is starting to take place. I did really well. Now I want whatever that guy's got, right? Like instead of working together, they're like, I'm gonna go just take it from that guy, right? It just goes to show you the dangers of blind ambition. So yeah, that's a photo of the Bondurants. This is actually a photo of, I don't know what year this was, but this is Jack Bondurant. As far as I can remember, this is Jack Bondurant, and obviously a little bit older, or a lot older here. Still looking flashy with the flat cap there, right? So obviously this is after he's already made some bread in the moonshining industry, and yeah, just a really great photo. Flat cap. It goes to show you that he wore that flat cap, that the movie was really accurate. Another photo here, this is actually Pretty Boy Floyd, right? The real Pretty Boy Floyd, and you can see that iconic Tommy gun, right? This was a guy that was his tool of his trade, right? He was a bank robber, and he went in there with a Tommy gun, and you didn't mess with him, right? And then I'll just show you, obviously, you guys already seen like a lot of photos of this guy, but Al Capone, the other character that inspired, that was the inspiration for Floyd Banner, Gary Oldman's character. And just the one thing that people kind of need to realize is that Al Capone wore a hat really well, man. I know he was a bad guy, but man, that man could wear a hat. Actually, a Brooklyn boy as well. A lot of people don't know that. Al Capone was a born in Brooklyn, and then moved out to the Chicago area, and that's how he kind of ascended to run the Chicago outfit. But yeah, and the man could wear a hat. That looks like it's a mugshot. But I got other photos here, right? Really sharp dresser, man. Right? I think that's been captured in the movies really well. But I like seeing the real thing, to be honest, right? Robert De Niro did a really great Al Capone. The Gentleman in Boardwalk Empire, I think, did a good Al Capone. But for me, like the real photos, like there's enough of them out there. You can see the real Al Capone with a hat on, and yeah, just man, look at that. Look at that presence, right? Also like a squat guy, right? Has a chubby face, right? Like a very full face, but man, the guy could wear a hat. Let me see more here. Look at that. Look at that hat tilt. That is an iconic look right there. I mean, again, it's that Chicago style that's pervasive, right? Everybody knows that Chicago gangland style. It's just iconic, and it's one more here. And yeah, just like a side profile of Al Capone. Shout out to Al Capone. Not that I glorified like all the violence that he committed, but again, he was iconic, right? In terms of his hat wear. Obviously, his reputation was that of a ruthless gangster. But again, there's been lots of Al Capones, and it's not that we're celebrating somebody that does bad deeds. It's kind of like, it's just something that puts hats on the map, right? Like just like Johnny Depp, right? Johnny Depp is an actor. He placed the Alessandria Borsellino on the map when he started donning that in his personal life. Again, Al Capone is his style is impeccable, and is iconic. So I believe that's all I had for the the slideshow. Man, I kind of ran through that a little quickly. Hopefully that's okay with you guys. I didn't get besides Josh, I didn't get a lot of participation on this. But man, what a movie! If you hadn't seen Lawless, right? You can go see Lawless and then go rewatch this. But watch it from the eye of a hat enthusiast, right? Which is probably how you're going to watch it now anyway, if you're on this channel. Man, again, this movie is not a movie that is unique. It's a movie that's unique because I had not had a chance to watch it pre-hatting, right? Before I was a hat person. But man, what a movie. Thank you so much, Josh and Ian, for seconding Josh's recommendation, and you guys for voting for it, right? This won by one vote. I think the other movie was Miller's Crossing. I don't know what we're gonna have for the next Fedora Friday. I'll have to try to mix it up. I'll do some carryover. I'll probably keep Godfather Part 2. If you guys have other, no problem. Hey, Josh, you and Ian are really helping out with this channel. I thank you guys for your time and your input. Basically, what was I going to say? Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. For the Fedora Friday number 5, I'll try to come up with some options that are good. But I'll probably have to keep some carryover as well. But there's other ones that I want to add eventually. I want to add Borsellino, both movies, but especially the original Borsellino movie. I want to add The French Connection at some point. There's so many other good movies. Josh, I believe you mentioned Alamo. So we'll see. We'll see what it comes out. I'll try to provide a good mix. And that way, as the channel grows and we start getting more participation, we're eventually going to cover them all, to be honest, right? We're probably going to run out of movies, in which case then we'll start shifting gears, right? This might start off, Fedora Friday might start off as a movie focused, but we'll eventually start reaching music and musicians, as well as art, and just any other aspects of popular culture or not pop culture, just aspects of life that hat related, and are not specific lids that we're talking about, right? I feel like this was something that was born out of Ian's suggestion. So shout out to Ian. We saw him earlier in the show with Paul. Paul and Ian, if you're watching this, hopefully you guys have reached your pub destination by now. If not, you'll be getting there soon for those fish and chips in that brew. Right, sharing that pint together. Man, you guys made my day when you guys showed up here, and Ian, you got on camera, man. And then Paul, thank you so much for taking the time out to get in there and get on camera, but also to tease the possibility of future partnerships. Man, Paul, you really touched me in so many ways in terms of like your participation on my channel, and I just wanted to thank you again for doing that. I want to thank all you guys for rocking with me again. This is not the biggest channel, but I'm really proud of where this channel has gone, and my place in amongst the hat YouTubers. Right, I feel like I've carved out a little bit of a niche here in terms of going live, in terms of doing Fedora Friday. And bringing some of the guest hatters. Not that part is novel, but I really want to build a community here, and I want to keep collaborating, right? So if you have a YouTube channel and you want me to come on your channel, yeah, feel free to reach out, right? Send me a Facebook invite, drop a comment here on the videos, give me your contact information. Johnny, we still have to collaborate. Hopefully I'll be able to get Johnny on here. Follow his channel, follow Paul's channel, Passion for Hats. Josh, I'm not sure if you have a channel, but if you do, follow Josh. Follow all the folks that are affiliated. Kevin's channel. Kevin's got 40,000, almost 40,000 subscribers, but I'm sure he's still trying to grow. Hopefully, I'll get Kevin on here, or I'll get onto Kevin's channel. However, we're gonna do this, but we're gonna slowly do this. Josh says he does. So follow Josh and subscribe to his channel. He's doing a lot of great things. reach out and Facebook friend him. Josh is a hatter on the come up, right? He does really good work. He just started in this, but his hats are already looking really good. I'm sure, Josh, we're going to collaborate on a hat pretty soon. I just know it, so look out for that. I just got to come up with that idea, right? Maybe on one of my walks, I'll come up with an idea to do a hat. I reached out to Robert about collaborating on a hat. Well, I reached out on the stream. I'm still waiting for him to message me back. Yeah, we'll do, Josh. We'll do. Yeah, we'll come up with something. The nice thing about Josh is that out of all the hatters, besides Brian, Josh is the other hatter that's on here that's actually based in the US, right? So I don't have to pay any kind of import fees. Not that I mind, but it's nice not to have to pay an import fee in the tariffs. So shout out to my US based hatters as well. Again, now with all these I'm going to just call them dumb tariffs, again, I understand the idea behind them, but ultimately, anything that makes the goods and services that you want more costly, it's just hard to justify. It's hard to swallow, but I hope it works, I hope these tariffs are the cure to everything. I'm a little bit skeptical, right? So something that makes products, right? We're a consumer driven economy, and anything that makes products and services more expensive just seems like a step backward. But I'm not an economist, right? I'm just a hat enthusiast. I'm just a guy bloviating about fine hats, right? Just like the description says. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope this fixes everything. I just don't know if that's accurate. But anyway, thanks for rocking with me, guys. Again, like and support our channel as well. I'll plug the hat again. Right, I'm gonna give away this Knox custom built in Canada, right? After I get to 100 subscribers. So if you are watching this and you're not a subscriber, try to subscribe, please. I ask that only because, again, one, I've been stuck on 45 subscribers for quite a little bit. I want to see that number go up, So if maybe your wife is not a subscriber, and if she, maybe she wants to subscribe, right? Like I'll take subscribers in any way possible. But like the nice thing is, there's no obligation. There's no obligation to subscribe. There's no obligation to like the video. If you just want to watch and you don't want to subscribe, that's cool with me. But there's one thing I'm really not negotiable about, right? And you guys know where I'm getting at, right? So I got my Kavanaugh from the 30s, right? My Forrest Bondurant hat. So if you don't do it for me, do it for Forrest Bondurant and the Bondurant brothers, right? Just do them one solid, or we'll send Howard after you. You don't want us to send Howard after you, or maybe we'll even send Floyd Banner, right? We'll send them after you, and not to break your legs or anything or to do anything wrong, but just to hit the subscribe button for you, right? That's just it. We're just gonna send Howard over, and he's just gonna go boop, and he will subscribe for you. But if you do us with one solid here as well, stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao.